Welcome to Chasing Hard podcast, where we talk about trusting God when life doesn't turn out the way you planned. It's just me today talking to you, which is always a good thing, even though it's better when there's another person to talk with, to interact with. But there are a few things that I have on my mind to talk about. The first thing, I talk to a lot of people during the week, and so there's always things to talk about. The first thing being people in difficult marriages for whatever reason, women in difficult marriages for whatever reason, and there can be a plethora of reasons. Um, I know a woman who's been married for a few decades, maybe close to 40, definitely in the 30s. And it's been difficult. It's trying and difficult and um what is the word? Predictable, the stories that she tells me. But here's the thing, and I know a lot of people, a lot of women can probably relate to this. She often says, he's not the same man I married. He changed. Something happened. And I don't know all the details to the story, but I do know a few enough to know that, yeah, something did happen. But they chose to stay together to move past the something, but it doesn't appear like he has. He's difficult to get along with. He's irritable and he often he he talks down to her about things that really aren't his business, like things about her work. He he wants to control that. He wants to tell her where she's wrong, what she's doing wrong, what she should do instead, with really no knowledge of what is expected from her at work or some details he's missing out on because he doesn't work there. And her heart is for her family, her heart is for her marriage. She tries really hard, but if nothing changes, nothing changes. She wants her marriage to work. She has confronted him. She has talked with a counselor. He doesn't want to go to a counselor. Um, she's done a lot of things to stay in the marriage, but nothing seems to be changing. And oftentimes, women in situations like that have to be willing to not be in the marriage, to give it up, to step aside, to allow God to deal with the husband. There was a book by Dr. James Dobson years ago called Tough Love. And I think it was more of a parenting book, but it applies to everybody in hard situations. Sometimes you have to do something you don't want to do in order to make a change. And in her situation, I think that's maybe what it's going to take. And I get it, it's inconvenient to leave, to find a place to stay. It's embarrassing. She doesn't really want people to know the extent of what's going on. It's financially not real feasible. I get all those things, but I'm pretty sure he knows she's not leaving. He doesn't have to change. He can keep doing what he's doing because she keeps doing what she does. If nothing changes, nothing changes. And that's hard. It's hard to know. I mean, it's easy to sit, to be an armchair coach. It's easy to sit back and look at a woman's situation, look at her marriage and tell her what she needs to do. I'm not gonna do that. I don't do that. I just listen to her, encourage her, um, speak truth into her life as in little tidbits because that's all she can handle right now. But because I've been around these situations so many times, I know that something is going to have to change on her side of the street before anything can change in the marriage. I have another friend who has been married for, gosh, 46 years, and she did leave. She was gone for about 3 months. Never ever thought she would. She lives with an alcoholic addict, active. Um, it can get pretty volatile. It's been a sad thing to watch. Um, I love her. I love her husband. They're both. I've known them for many, many years. But I also know that things needed to change, that she probably needed to leave before anything changed. And she didn't want to until one day it was all she could take and she left. And she didn't really tell him she was leaving, and she didn't tell him for how long she would be gone once he figured out she's not coming back tonight or tomorrow night or whatever, however long it took. They would talk every now and then on the phone, not often. He never asked really where she was or when she was coming home. They they talked, and she had no intention of going home. After about 3 or 4 months, it it hit him that she wasn't coming back. And that hit him hard because he never thought that would happen. It hadn't happened in 40 plus years. So why would it happen? And even though she missed him and still loved him, she knew she couldn't go back because it was crazy there. It was chaotic and crazy, and she couldn't live with that any longer. And so he called her one day. She said, she told me she had never in all of their years of dating and being married, have never had seen him cry, not at a close friend, family member's funeral, never did he cry. But he was on the phone crying. He didn't know, he said, how much he would miss her. He didn't know how much he loved her. He didn't think she was never coming back, but it hit him that she was serious and that she wasn't coming back. And he made some changes and she did move back. And even though I think there is, there's that honeymoon phase and then things have sort of gone back, but they haven't totally gone back. She got his attention, not in a manipulative way. He just understands and sees the light now and sees that she actually can live apart from him. And he doesn't want that. And he doesn't want her to do that again. So to be mindful of that knowledge, to experience what that feels like is often a good thing. I know some people, especially in the church circles, frown on separation for a long period of time. And it you do get accustomed to living apart, living without the other person. But in some cases, and in her case, it was necessary. And I think in the case of my other friend, it might be necessary. In my 44 years of marriage, we've been separated for long periods, and it's a couple times, a few times, actually. It was a good learning experience. It was a good time to regroup and heal for me and determine where I was going, what I wanted to do to heal and get a clear head and set the boundaries that I needed in my life in order for me to live together again. And I'm no, he did the same while we were apart. So it sounds drastic. It's not convenient. It's costly on a few levels, but sometimes it's super necessary. Sometimes that's the only thing that can change what's going on in the dynamics of a relationship. And sometimes, even outside of a marriage, sometimes you have to take a break. If it's a good friend or another family member, you need some distance. Sometimes it's important to do that. I think in a marriage, instead of even rushing to get a divorce, separation is beneficial and can be beneficial in most situations and circumstances. Not all. I get there are different factors that go into the decision. And some marriages are so broken and dangerous that you can't reconnect, reunite. But separation can be a useful tool when used in the right way. Taking the time to work on yourself and determine between you and God to see what God wants you to do in this situation, how he wants you to handle it, what he has designated and designed. And that's all any of us can do. We can make our decisions the best we know, allowing God to show us what we need to do. There's no cookie cutter solution because there's no cookie cutter marriage. Um, there's not. And based on my own experience and walking with a lot of women who have been in difficult marriages, I understand that to be the case. There's no step one, step two, step three, bam. This is what you need to do here, 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 here. There isn't. To be willing to allow God to do whatever he wants to do, to be willing to take the necessary steps in order for that to happen, sometimes means separation, no matter how inconvenient, how scary that appears. And that's all I have today. If you are going through a difficult situation in your marriage, if you've been married a long time and it's been difficult the entire time, if you want to honor God and your vows and you don't know how to do that and you're in the circumstances that are happening in your marriage, seek some help, seek some advice, seek some counsel, and be open to taking some time apart. That's between you and God. I'm not telling you that's what you have to do, but it definitely is an option and it can definitely benefit you as a person, which would benefit your marriage in the long run. Thank you for listening. I always enjoy these talks that we have, even though most often they're on surrounded around difficult topics. But I am grateful for your feedback. I'm grateful for your encouragement. Um, and I hope to have some other people coming aboard to talk soon. Again, thanks for joining me today. I will be back next week. I hope you are too.